This is the Republic Notice. I'm Mary Omni from the House of King David. The title of this Republic Notice is called Whitewomen Treachery Against the White Man in North America. Now, the disclaimer is, I'm not talking about all white women, but I'm talking about the majority of them, of course. And we do have white women born from black women, okay, who by all appearances or whatever is considered white, but they're born from constitutional black women. So we do have black women that give birth to white women in a holy covenant. So that's the disclaimer, that I'm not talking about all, but if the shoe fits, wear it. Now, the white woman treachery against the white man has to do with American history and why we're at this point now, and a lot of the evil that is occurring now. Her treacherous nature can be seen today. She do not look like she cares about giving birth to white children. She seems like she want to run around and always try to act like this equality means her sleeping with the black man, the brown man, the yellow man. She wanted to give birth to everybody child except the white man. The white man is her man by the living God, is what gave her a white man for her to have white children. But she seems to get a kick out of treason against the Constitution. Her treachery and treason is constitutional infringement. She's treachery and treason against constitutional God's sovereignty by mating with black men. By mating black men with black men, creating a bastard generation instead of giving birth to children that is white like the white man she gives birth to, and her white husband that was designed for her by cosmic intelligence. You know, her treason against the Constitution is serious because it invades God's sovereignty and it tramples God's sovereignty, and that's the God's sovereignty of the black man and the black woman giving birth to non-consenting heirs to keep God's sovereignty going. So this is serious criminal. She's a criminal. She is in criminality and treachery. She's a treasonous against this Constitution, because the treasonous is an infringement and to fight the God sovereignty of the Constitution, in which the black man and black women, non-consenters, produce a non-consenter heir. And she's keep Babylon whoring, and her Babylon whoring does not produce white children for her, and it takes away from constitutional heirs. Along with this, other women who come to this country follow her. Now she pretends that she have all this equality and have all this respect for black men, and their marriages don't last no time anyway, because from the inset and the onset, any black man with other than a black woman, that white woman insults the black man because she says she's better than his mother kind. So that way she's telling him she's racist against him already. She says she got something better than his mother kind got. She says she got something worth more than the women kind who gave him birth. So from the onset, just by her being with him, is a treacherous and treason, and he's joining her in Babylon whoredom and jumping out of the holy covenant of God's sovereignty as the 15th Amendment Jerusalem wall into Babylon whoredom. Now, let me go back of this treachery and why she's treacherous against the white man. I just wanted to bring you up to modern what she was doing, but let's talk about historically. Historically, she was mad at our Ephraim brothers. Our Ephraim brothers, because it's two kind of white men in this that has something to do with America and the foundation, is Esau and Ephraim. The Ephraim brothers were part of the Republic Radicals, and they were the union that worked with blacks and that were part of the Quakers and, wanted to push emancipation because they reasoned that none could be free unless blacks was free. They knew we were the Hebrew Israelites. They knew we were the real Jews, okay? So they sought to supreme us in that constitution because they felt as though this would be a blessed nation by the living God if his holy nation was supremed in that constitution. So they made sure blacks got a 14th and 15th Amendment. Now, the white woman got mad at this because she could own slaves. And she had slaves and she could contract with slaves. As a matter of fact, Dred Scott was one of her slaves, and the only reason it got to the court is because she took it to court and kept it in court because she had a legal right to contract and she had legality right. As the court said, Dred Scott had no legal rights, which was a win for Dred Scott because it proved he had no legal rights to consent. He had no legal rights to consent to even constitutionality, which they said he was framed in it, but he became legal non-consent. And that proved he was a non-consenter because he didn't have any legal rights to consent. So his so-called master died, and then his wife took it to court. Now, what the irony is the Dred Scott kind got a voting amendment called the 15th Amendment before the white women that owned them. So her fire was kindled from that point on in 1870 when the black man got a vote, and she didn't. But what our Ephraim brothers was trying to do was protect Union women, and in protecting Union women, he was trying to protect these treacherous white women, Esau, Edom, too. These treacherous one, Esau, Edom, because they figured like she gives birth, and if they don't protect her, they miss protection of all the generations. And then we can have a globalist infiltration in this country that can create bond women and bond children forever. So they didn't give her a vote because they felt as though she would vote away the Constitution and vote into bondage because of her narcissism and refusal to raise her own children. She had become narcissistic, and they didn't feel as though she was stable enough to have a vote, so they protected her with the 13th Amendment, voluntary servitude by consent to serve the holy nation, the black nation, which is what our Ephraim brothers began to accept as a place for them to be, to serve the living God. So it was good for them. They felt as though it was good enough for the white woman, but she cried for a vote, and 50 years later, after the 1870 amendment, finally someone got a hold of her angst, these globalists, and they manipulated her that she would get a 19th amendment. But this 19th amendment have no constitutional ratification. It's a shell amendment. It's a shell amendment because it's after 1871, and after 1871, the only ratified amendment was the 16th amendment. And that was ratified because we still had someone left over from the Lincoln regime, Tate. His name was Tate, who was a holy Gentile consenter that still had constitutionality. Now, white men and white women had constitutionality until the woman's vote. Once the woman's vote came in, what she got was a contract of consent to consent herself out of constitutionality. And see, that's why they wanted to protect her with the 13th Amendment, because she would be under non-consent jurisdiction. Well, she abridged the 15th Amendment. See, thou shalt not abridge. She abridged the 15th Amendment to so-called get back at the white man. She abridged, and she consented to abridge the 15th Amendment by 1921 and 1922 with this phony, unratified 19th Amendment. Is not ratified by constitutional supreme contract because non-consent was constitutionalized in 1865, which gave the jurisdiction of non-consent jurisdiction, and the black man vote is non-consent supreme jurisdiction of the New Jerusalem Wall. So she got an unratified shell amendment that is basically corporate and global and foreign, and they used the language of the 15th to try to hijack it, and thou shalt not abridge, but her consent in 1921-22 was her abridging and severing her constitutionality. And it's not a vote. She has a contract, a bondage, because in order for it to be a real vote, it would have had to have constitutional ratification. It has no constitutional ratification. It's on the other side of the U.S. corporation. It's the 17th, 18th, and then the 19th. The 19th have no ratification, neither does the 17th and 18th. These are shell amendments. They're attached to the Supreme Constitutional Contract to get a bondwoman outside of the contract so that they can call it a vote. But what it will be is in corporate doctrine consent to foreign globalists for bondage. And so therefore she put her sons in bondage and her generations in bondage because she didn't want to accept what the Ephraim brothers was trying to protect. And that's her being a bondwoman. Her treachery and narcissism was proven out anyway. If they did all they could to protect her, they by not giving her a vote, because she was a consenter, where blacks are non-consent, so they automatic God sovereign Teflon. But since she was a consenter, she was dangerous, and she was dangerous because she give birth to other consenters, and therefore she could give birth to bond children of consent, which the bankers could use as debt vessels once they get her outside the Constitution, which they did by promising her a vote, which was just a hijacking of the 15th Amendment language and a severing of her Constitution, because she abridged the 15th Amendment to have this unratified vote outside of the Constitution. And that's when the war powers, the military, industrial powers, the evil powers, the globalists, they had their vessel and consenters outside the Constitution because they couldn't do it with blacks. Blacks are Fort Knox and protected by non-consent jurisdiction, and they was non-consenters and became legal non-consenters. They didn't consent to go into the Constitution. They didn't consent to be governed. And they had their Ephraim brothers, which a lot of them sucked the breasts of black women. And black women raised a lot of these constitutional writers and reconstructionists, and they raised and bathed them, and they sucked the breasts of them, and they created that church in the Constitution of our white Ephraim brothers. So this white treacherous woman that's full of treason and treacherous, she not only betrayed the Ephraim brothers that tried to protect it, she betrayed her Esau, her white man, and her sons and her children into bondage, for she's the bondwoman of America that all evil is founded on and built on outside of the Constitution, which is why they think they can open up borders and invite all kind of women to claim the 14th. And she got all women of the world to come here and put their children into bond contracts while the globalists steal all their land and create all their evil, poison all their water, drop oil in all their oceans, mess with all their food and all that. They called it an American dream. But the reality is the black Americans are the constitutional reality. The dream is her. The black American woman is the constitutional reality of the fail-safe of the Constitution. They tried to make this white treacherous woman a fail-safe, but she couldn't comprehend. Her narcissism was too strong. So she became the more so the treachery and enemy of all her generations of men. And she built up all the military industrial complex, because every white woman that came in here after, every yellow woman came in after, every brown woman came in after, every foreign woman that came in after her fell into that vote, and they birthed bond children, which the globalists invested in as debt vessels, bondage of debt vessels. So bondage is here, and they are the debt vessels. The Constitution has no debt, and that's why you know they're not constitutional. And every time you see that debt ceiling, the debt ceiling now has them down to like 3,500 years. And another 3,600 years will have to overcome for this white woman who fueled the globalists, which are governed. The globalists are controlled by evil, wicked lizard demons. Evil, wicked lizard demons that try to destroy the world. So she led to, and she was treacherous enough to feed evil lizard demon regimes of aliens. The alien connection is with the white woman treachery in America and her bond children up to bondage of debt for 3,600 years. This is Mary Omni from the house of King David. This is my country.